This morning's haul. We went to run some errands and gather flowers. Don't worry, I'm not pilfering from somebody's personal garden. Although, I guess they're public bushes, so. And a lot of these are reaching their end. That's okay. That's okay. They still deserve lots and lots of love. Plus, I intend someday to actually make perfume out of all of this. I collect the petals, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, good morning. Good morning. What time is it? Doesn't matter, really, because by the time you watch it could be good evening. So, g'day, mate. G'day. Bulla. Namaste. How's it going? What are we talking about today, my darling? We've got a few things to talk about. Things that we have been, we've been talking about for the last few days. And primarily, sorry, I just got a bit of an itch on my back. Integrity, but we'll get to that in a moment. Second last day of February. Yes, second last day, the 28th. February 28th, 2024. In 2024, it's a leap year. I have got some interesting facts about leap year. And of course, because as we have talked about before, and as I explained, the Gregorian calendar is, Julius, one of the Caesars, well, he added months to it because of, so the ancients, the Chinese, the Indian calendars, and I have explained about Chinese astrology using, even though they go by the Chinese calendar goes by the Gregorian calendar, but their astrology goes by the lunisolar calendar, which is both lunar and solar, taking into account the phases. And because of that, and I suppose I should be talking about this tomorrow, really, on the actual day it matters, but because of that, there is the length of time in a year is not exactly 365 days, which we know. I mean, it's 365 and 6 hours or something like that.
365.25. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Right.
365.6. Yeah.
Yeah.
365.25 days.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Days. Yes. Right.
So yeah. So you're right. So
something like that.
365 days and 6 hours.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
And also there's a few other things, like there's a thing called drift, which is where the Gregorian calendar, the Roman calendar, messed up a little. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But today is normally supposed to be the last day of February, and we've got autumn just around the corner in the southern hemisphere. Certainly doesn't feel like it today. It's very muggy, and tomorrow is supposed to be a scorcher, love, which is, if long-term viewers know that this is really just the only thing I can say about a hot day in Australia. Scorcher. Scorcher. I need to do something about the height of this camera because, sorry, flowers. I need to put them away now. So I'm just going to raise the standards and the tripod. Integrity. My darling, what have we been talking about?
A lot of things this morning.
A lot of things this morning, which I don't know how to broach some of these things. There's been some terribly heinous things happening in the world, as we know. But closer to home, look, I don't know. There's constant heinous things happening to the First Nations people of this land. But a terrible thing that doesn't seem to get the same amount of compassion. It's an interesting thing. It's this fatigue, compassion fatigue, that people of a certain demographic or racial grouping, it happens to them all the time. But if it happens to people out of the blue, and the way I can equate this is what happened to Ukraine when Putin decided to invade it, the country. Everyone was in shock, like, what? A country in Europe? Europe? Euro-white Europe was invaded by a fellow Europe, I don't know, is Russia, Europe, or Asian, or mixed up, or confused, or without an identity?
It's close to America, so
yes.
What's going on?
What's going on, Russia? But, so people were surprised. I was shocked too, like, whoa, because we're not used to, in the modern era, seeing war in Europe. However, where did the wars all happen? The current life cycle, the current way our world is, does actually come all the way from World War I and World War II at the start of last century. That's, of course, when the first billionaires also came into being. War bonds. War is very profitable. Anyway, so we were all surprised, that Ukraine, because we're used to the Middle Eastern countries, right? We're used to African countries, always been at war. We're used to the war between India and Pakistan and anything that happens. We're used to Pacific Islands and their racial tensions and the wars within the civil wars. So we just dismiss it as like, it's the same thing when Notre Dame, the cathedral, Our Lady's literal translation of that, the cathedral in Paris burnt down, and all the billionaires crawled out of the woodworks to donate money to be restored. And it's like, okay, you couldn't do this to stop a famine. You couldn't do this to stop poverty in your own countries, because poverty isn't just in these countries that, it's happening over there. Poverty is happening right around you. Poverty is happening when you walk past an employment benefits or a place, or people can't afford, and when you see in the supermarket what's being sold, and it's all the generic supermarket products. Anyway, so crazy. So going back to, we were talking about Ukraine, and I'm talking about who we're not used to seeing the strife in the Eurocentric worlds of the constructs. I mean, what is going to happen if war actually gets to UK, the States of America? I was going to say or USA, but there's nothing united about that country. What if? And Australia. And Australia has got one good thing going for it, as a former Prime Minister said, it's the arse end of, which I thought was terribly derogatory. Like, yeah, it's far away from the rest of the world, but good. It's not far away from Asia. That's not the rest of the world anyway. So, what were we talking about? We're talking about integrity. But why had I gotten onto Ukraine? This is, regular viewers know that this tends to happen. New viewers are like, what? It's okay. Bear with us. Bear with me. I'm worth it. We were talking about integrity, but I was talking about the state of the world as it is now, and how we are so surprised at the things that happen out of the blue. And so this is what's happened. Sorry, my nose is a bit itchy. A heinous crime has happened to young, good-looking, Euro-white, trendy, living in a trendy place in a trendy suburb in Sydney. Young couple, gay. Not that that's got, does that have it? Well, okay, maybe it does. And they've been murdered by a jealous, stalking type who the media had reported as being the ex-partner of one of the murdered young men. But no, that's not the case at all. It's coming out now. And what's worse is that, okay, this is Mardi Gras week in Sydney. Mardi Gras coming up. Mardi Gras is a big parade that has become a family affair now, which is great. I love it. I don't. People have said, I suppose this is all supposed to be for gay people and stuff. What are children doing? I'm like, come on, those children may be gay too. It's okay for them to see, that everything is normal. The Mardi Gras parade was started for, against brutality, against the regime, against the laws, against the brutality of police. And now police also march in this parade, because of course there are many people who are gay who happen to be police, or happen to be gay. I don't really know that, that's okay for us to say we're cis hetero. And it's like, what's the big deal? They're human beings. That's how we feel. But this is what I don't get. What's it to anyone if someone's gay? What is it to anyone? I don't get it. Yeah. It's weird, right? Hello, we're straight.
Why do we have to fight for these things? Like women's rights.
Yeah, I mean, we do have to fight for it because of the fact that it has been so suppressed.
Yeah, but that's what we're saying, right? Why is that? Who's
Who determined it
Yeah.
way long ago that all of these things, anyway, let me go back to the story. But I do, it's like something I said earlier when we were walking, doing our errands. The more a person has the devil in them, the more they need God to suppress that side of them. Because we were walking past and this woman had a what is it? A rosary
Oh,
with a
right, yeah.
crucifix. And she was, and then as she walked past us, she's a Euro woman, she did, she kissed the cross and stuff. And I was like, you better be scared, lady, of yourself. I truly believe that people who are scared, constantly scared of the devil taking them over and stuff like that, have got something really wrong in their brains. Anyway, and that's why they turn to God. God, of course, as we know, is divinity within. And if you can't trust yourself, Anyway, going back to this terrible thing. So, okay. And so it's terrible what's happened to this young couple. Vibrant, young people shouldn't, it's not good at all. The person who murdered them is a cop. Before that, he was known as a celebrity chaser. So he's someone who runs after celebrities, not even a paparazzi, and just takes selfies of himself with them. And it's a nuisance type guy, okay? But he became a cop, and apparently a cop for hire, because a lot of these cops are the non-serious ones, but they need more and more numbers in the police force, right? So a lot of them get hired to be security cops.
right?
I didn't realize that was a thing. I'm just reading about that in the news. And so he's one of those types. And if you look at him, you think, whoa, how'd you get to be? Why aren't there? I truly feel that major psychological tests need to be done for people who drive, and not just licenses, not just the ability to drive, the psychology to drive. So, driving, having children, they need to have psychological tests for that. And also alcohol and what they could call drugs. All the things that I don't believe, the hard drugs things are kind of scary. I don't know, it's the numbness that has permeated humanity, that has driven people's need to find release mentally. And so that's the reason for hard drugs. I'm a swear in that regard, I don't, but there are other things that I'm absolutely a proponent of, from medically speaking and scientifically and spiritually too. But I think people do need to be psychologically tested, because I don't think everyone has the mental strength to be able to do so. Right? Alcohol as well.
Yep,
and I don't think young people, I think 18 is far too young. And I think then things need to be a bit more relaxed, so that when young people get to the responsibility of drinking alcohol, like why doesn't alcohol have P plates? Why can a former child at 17 on the date that at 12, at 11:59, they're 17, but at midnight they're 18 and they can immediately have alcohol? And they're still a child. Anyway, going back to this, so this terrible thing has happened. Terrible. It's a horrible, heinous crime, and everyone's obsessed with it. And this young gay couple, it's leading up to Mardi Gras, and it's put a really, it makes the community who have fought so hard for recognition that now same-sex couples can get married, have children. It's so hard they have fought to do this, that anything that happens to them as a community, they do come together and they feel. But I've got another story for you. So another thing that's happening is Taylor Swift has been concerts in Australia, and huge crowds, 96,000 in Melbourne, 80,000 in Sydney, and it's crazy. Look, I'm not a fan of her music and her performance style or anything. She appeals to her fan base, which is young, mainly Euro white or definitely Euro construct girls, and girls who've grown up with her, because she is in her 30s. So there are girls in their 30s who are women in their 30s who, right, absolutely, I get it. I do not take away from the fact that she deserves her fan base, but I still have issues with, like, what exactly has she, anyway, look, I'm not talking about that. She's loved, beloved by many, so good for them. She's become a billionaire on the backs of other people's. They resonate with the heartbreak and the bad choices she makes, because I think Taylor Swift is the most excellent example of public relations. I'm a publicist. Ask me, and I will explain. But okay, forget all that. People love her. Whatever. At her shows, apparently, there's this number 22 cap that she gives out, and I don't know the significance of this cap, of the number, but some lucky person is the recipient personally of being chosen to be given a cap from Taylor Swift. It's a big deal. I mean, if Beyonce chose me out of a crowd, I'd be like, yeah! So this young girl, this I think she's only about 10 or 11, and she's got some terrible cancers. And she was at the concert with her mother, and the child's hair is because they shave, etc. And she got the cap. Great, wonderful. So that's why I know about this. Further reading, and she look. She has a GoFundMe account or page or whatever, and so far over a year they've managed to raise about $73,000. Maybe the Taylor Swift endorsement may give her able to do that. The GoFundMe that was created for this young gay couple that got murdered, in 3 days, raised $73,000.
Yeah, wow.
So this young girl who is still alive, there's so much to unpack here, and I don't know where even to say it, but there's so much wrong with every layer of this. It's also kind of terrible that people have to start GoFundMe accounts to get medical help. Why isn't medicine and the application of it free when it's supposed to be for everybody? Having said that, now a current news item, and please do join me for One Take News sometime this week, and I'll talk more about some of these things if I haven't talked about it here. Just recently, a billionaire, in the last 2 days, has donated to the Einstein Medical Institute in New York, I believe. She is a former professor or something. I have got some facts wrong here, just remembering as I skimmed news. Donated $1 billion to make all medical tuition for this university free. So all the doctors from all over the world, wherever they're studying, everything now is free for this institution. Now that's how you billionaire. And she was left the money from her husband, who was a major stockholder in something, Warren Buffett, who was one of the major billionaires of the world, who is a philanthropist, but billionaire and philanthropy just doesn't go unless that billionaire becomes a millionaire and back to being a billionaire again. That billionaire cycle has to, you can't be a permanent billionaire. That's right. Yeah. But anyway, so the husband left it to his wife, saying, you do whatever you want with it.
Well, there you go.
The billions, and she went, right. I think she taught at this, or she was educated there, I don't know, but she gave $1 billion to no medical, when it was announced at the students assembly, medical school, the students just all like amazing, because medical degrees are expensive.
Yeah, sure.
Whew.
How cool.
Very, but also. Yeah, look, I don't know. I think there could have been other ways to do it, but I think it's easier to donate to an institution than it is to donate to a country and say, okay, fix yourself.
Yeah, because who are you giving the money to who are you entrusting to do that?
Yeah, it's, I don't know. But the billionaires of the world, in fiction we have Bruce Wayne, who is Batman.
I mean, Tony Stark did it, right? Like in one of the Avengers movies or Iron Man movies. the Civil War, where he funded everyone's projects.
Right, that was great.
Right?
Yes,
He was on
absolutely.
stage. So, you know, all
But-
your projects are funded.
But
Go for it.
Great. That's wonderful to be able to do. I wish we could, but it's also like, are these projects there for helping the world?
Right.
Like, do we need any more projects funded that are just there to mine the world, to profit off the world? That's the problem. You know, one of the few billionaires who's actually done something, and I'm not sure how good a person he is, but the guy who owned Warner, Ted Turner. He owned Warner and something. He was Turner, CNN. He owned all of that. He's a billionaire. For a long time, he was married to the legendary Jane Fonda.
Turner Classic Movies?
Maybe that, yes, all that. But he owned a lot of all of that. And he stood up and said, I'm giving $1 billion. I would like other people to match me, or something really crazy. I mean, his fortune was reduced and no one stood up and matched him.
Of course.
Nobody else did. This is just memory now from something that happened 25 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. So, you know, whatever. Anyway, which brings me to what we were talking about a lot, and how you and I have come to this conclusion about integrity. Now, integrity is something you are born with, and dignity is what you build. Integrity lowers in time. Dignity increases, but both are in balance. People lower their integrity, and dignity goes with it too.
Yeah.
So the thing about integrity is, once you lose it, it's done.
Yeah.
Once you compromise your integrity, it's done. You're gone. And so all of these people, then like, you compromise integrity to get rich, and then you think, now when I'm rich, I'll do good things. You can't buy your integrity back. People think that they will do bad shit, then they go and turn to religion thinking that that's going to get them absolution, or,
Yeah.
and integrity. Nah. Integrity now is what you've drowned under your psalms and verses and chants and, it's once integrity goes, it's done. And people then hustle for, the kudos, the reputation of someone who has integrity. And another thing I've been talking about is how I've come, and I was talking to a friend who is also a client, the founder and owner of Australia's premier Kathak dance company. Kathak is a classical dance form from India, one of the classical dance forms, one of the main ones from North India. Kathak literally, it's a dance of storytelling, because Katha is story. Because all dance forms are about stories. Anyway, look at all these celebrities. Look at how miserable they are. Look at how insecure they are. Look at how troubled, and, people didn't realize how troubled Robin Williams was. I mean, he's had a fairly well-documented troubled past with drugs and alcohol. Matthew Perry recently passed away. Heath Ledger, Anthony Bourdain. No one expected Anthony Bourdain. This kind, wonderful, Robin Williams was just, and all these people, so they all try and tell you, look, fame isn't, Jim Carrey has said, look, I want everyone to be rich and famous so you can see that it's not what it's cut out to be. Yes, that's great, but also I think, again, people need a psychology test. Do you have the intestinal fortitude or the mental fortitude? Not just the hustle, not just the ability to...
Sorry.
Is it the incense?
No.
Okay.
I just sneezed.
All right. Yeah. I'm sorry, because,
I tried to stifle it, and it backfired.
But yes, the psychology of it all. Do people have the mental fortitude to handle fame, to understand that people change around you when someone becomes famous? I know it on a very small scale. For the country of my birth, for a period for about 10 years in the 90s, I was extremely famous. This is way before social media. And that's because I was on radio and television and visual and singing and modeling, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the first television newsreaders, television faces. So I understand it from a small scale ratio point of view, that everybody around you changes. It's like all of a sudden, so people who knew me before were different after. And of course, everyone then all of a sudden has a judgment about you. And I'm unfortunately one of those people, because I do look at these celebrities and think, what are you doing? You're all put in these positions of being role models. And it's lie after lie after lie after lie. And I am at that unfortunate time in my healing trajectory where clarity is permanent, and my internal vision is not being clouded, which is a really fancy way of saying I see through everything now. I see through it all, and it's quite disturbing to see just how messed up the world really is. And these celebrities, none of them have got their head on right. Even just none of them. They're all, you can say things like, people, I'm sure they're really lovely. I'm sure they're nice people. But then there's women who should be breaking the constructs, rules of how they need to look. So you have celebrity women who are now in their 50s who are still buying the constructs lies, the patriarchal gaze lies, the profit, the capitalistic lies of women need to look a certain way. And as we age, we have to, the lie that youth is what is most relevant about a person. Beauty and youth, and beauty is only relevant when it's youthful. What a load of shit. What are you making, my darling?
Scones.
Oh, okay, well, Duane's making scones.
I feel like having scones today.
Huh, right now?
Oh yeah.
Like, so with my poached egg?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that okay?
No, I'm happy to have it with toast, but if you're going to make scones, great. I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you. Yeah, it's just the weather, right?
I think
Could be
so.
The pollen?
The what?
Pollen?
The pollen. Yes. Oh, yes. That stuff. I should put some of these flowers away now. Sorry, darling. So we were talking about integrity. And for what I'm saying about that is, once you start lying to your fans, or you say, oh, no, it's just olive oil. Sorry, the filter slips, the filters glitch. And once you get caught out in that lie, I think that the jig is up. And, you could still sort of have integrity if you're like, okay, guys, look, I do use filters or what. Don't quote me, I don't use filters. Look. And, I find it quite odd that I'm considered either brave, or people look like, ooh. And it's like, ew to you too. And for people who think I am brave because it's like, oh, honey, you've really got to work out what's happening in your brain. I will concede, of course, the privilege I have of having been born with looks. I guess we all are, but some of us, and I have talked about this a few times now on the Daily Egg, there is a reason beauty exists. And it's just a draw card. It is not the main character. Beauty is a billboard for something else. But now beauty seems to be something that everyone thinks they have the right to, which is weird. So again, buying it doesn't mean you are it, And it's a very, I know Duane doesn't really want to enter into this conversation. And I don't even know how far to take it, but the fact is, beauty has been made into something. So beautiful people are made to feel bad about their beauty. Beautiful women are expected to end up with not so beautiful guys, because this is something we're going to have to talk about for an episode of our podcast, Radio Fly. But my thing with the celebrity side of it is like, if you have to hold on to the youth side of things, but particularly some of these celebrities who've been famous for 30 years, 40 years, especially, sad to say, women, wouldn't it have been amazing if they got to their older ages, around 50, and just said, well, I'm a superstar regardless? Wouldn't it have been amazing for the supermodels to say, well, there's a reason why we're supermodels, and to not be so greedy about it, but I don't know, and think that they have to stay relevant. And that's the thing. It makes me very sad that so many of them think that it's their youth that made them the supermodels, instead of actually that freak of nature beauty they had and have, and their ability to apply it. It's not enough to be beautiful, but in this generation's idea of beauty and modeling, for instance, it's become about what the model looks like instead of how the model can apply that beauty. Am I articulating this? Because we're still talking about integrity. And do you really want, I don't get how this is integrity. And these supermodels, a lot of them are intelligent and absolutely deserving of that title. Except if they still have to buy into their own hype. They were so used to seeing who they were, rejected for who they weren't, and then after all that they get exalted for, seeing photoshopped or airbrushed imagery of themselves. So naturally they're going to start thinking, ooh, they're not good enough. They need to look like their image. Wow, messed up. Because their beauty was not good enough, even though it was supposed to be fast. It was supposed to be the superior beauty that made them supermodels. I don't know, darling. It's all very confusing.
Isn't it just?
It's not confusing. It's just where does it end? I don't actually, I don't know how that happened. I don't actually have solutions. I can only have examples, and that's how I am. I can only, I have used filters. I have used tricks of shading and light, etc., to make certain things. I have. I know how to stand as an ex-model. I know how to elongate my face, but this is my face. This is what it is, and but you know how to hold yourself in a certain way to make it look like you're
Nice stretch.
Yes. This is a story I had told Duane about my time in Hong Kong, and we were at a go-see, because I was also modeling in Hong Kong. I was there mainly as a singer. But I had joined an agency, and we were at a go-see and talking with all the girls, and and we just all friendly, etc. But I was normal. But when I got to, we all auditioned together, because it was a runway thing, and I then I rose to my full capacity, so I stood tall, etc. But when I'm standing around other people, we all fit to. We're not competing with each other out there in the waiting room. It's not even competition for me. It's like when you get to where you need to show, then you rise to your capacity. And so I did. And this Euro white girl, she was a British girl model, next to me, who was shorter, and but I had I don't know, subconsciously, I don't know. Oops, sorry, I forgot that I had taken the microphone off. Said to me, "Nice stretch," and I don't know why you brought that up.
No, because you were talking about how you hold yourself.
Right. When I'm on the job, right? Yeah. But I guess I hold myself all the time. What I'm saying is that as a model, you don't just rely on what you look like. You use what you look like to create the art of it. One of those things, some of those things. Thank you. So I didn't know why you had brought that up. It's like, what? Okay, right.
Oh, sorry, it was random.
No, not really. It wasn't random. I just couldn't remember what what you were referring to. So the integrity. Now, supermodels get used to sell products to us common folk, to us non-supermodels. Where's the integrity of using an already supermodeled woman who now has filters and fillers and Botox and all sorts of things to sell you skincare? What? To sell you the fantasy of a designer's vision? I don't know. For me, there is no integrity there. And these actors who are supposed to be conduits, who are supposed to be, messengers of human life, right? Create art via entertainment, educate via escapism is what they do. And it's all fake. We already know that they choose the people who are the most... Look, actors are blank canvases. They have a skill. And their skill is absolutely being able to detach themselves from what they need to be in order to shine at their craft, at their art. They need a script. They need a director. They need the purpose, and then they fill themselves with that character's attributes. And that's what they're able to do. But now we're just seeing more and more Botox, more and more, and I'm not denying there hasn't always been this, because in the golden age of Hollywood, right, that back in those days, and I think they still have this, special editors and special little studios where the star, once they get to be stars, or the production studios themselves, because especially with the women, they want to manipulate, like Marilyn Monroe is a famous example of it. So they will, allow, so frame by frame, they will enhance eyes and face and everything.
What a job.
What a job. And when I say frame by frame, I don't know how many frames in a movie.
24 frames in 1 second.
Duane is an animator and illustrator, so he knows all of that. And when drawing one frame, 24 frames.
Drawing 1 second is 24 drawings.
24 drawings. Per 1 sec, for 1 second of action, animation.
But some studios use half of that, so you can do it in 12.
And it's a different,
drawings,
just
yeah.
a different.
So the more frames, the smoother the animation, blah blah blah. But they're doing it from a film point of view. So 24 frames in 1 second is film.
Right.
And now you got 29 frames in a second, then you got super slow-mo, you got 1,000 frames a second for super slow-mo.
And now you can because of
digital.
of the digital stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But anyway, where were we? So yes, it's always been about fantasy Hollywood, and you've got to understand who started Hollywood. You've got to understand why it was started. It was always, and art is fantasy. Art is about, exceeding the limitations of our vessels. It's about understanding that there actually is some, more to us, because we are simply energy poured into vessels to contain the energy, to give it purpose, to direct a flow of water, a torrent of water. You make rivers, you create dams, so that the water, things like that. Otherwise, it's anarchy. And anarchy is not necessarily as bad as society has made it to be. Anarchy now is seen as more of a negative thing. But what happens to water when it's free-flowing is pure energy. It's anarchy. And anarchy needs to then be directed into...
Anarchy for who? Chaos for who?
Yeah, true.
For the water, it's just doing its thing.
Okay, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
there's that famous quote, what's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly.
Sure.
Stuff like that. It's our point of view, it's perspective. So, chaos for who? Okay.
Right. And that's integrity, right? Because, going back into integrity, still in the integrity thing, chaos for whom? It's all the constructs have decided that it's the same thing. It's how the colonizers went into every place they conquered and deemed the people's ways to be wrong.
Right. According to. Right.
But anyway, let's go back to integrity. Speaking of integrity, this other thing that we talked about, because I've been sending out emails. I've been asking for people to purchase a book that we have produced and published as the first book for our publishing house. It sounds grand, but it's a publishing house. So we do. We produce it for multicultural creatives and their artistry. Right now, all publishing houses that focus on multicultural people, especially because publishing is a cutthroat industry. It is very, very difficult. Everybody thinks they're a writer. Everybody thinks they're worthy of being published. Everybody thinks that they've got a story other people want to listen to and hear. And I've read some memoirs and I think, that's it? That's your story? Those of you who know my backstory may understand this, because I get told a lot of times, I get asked, are you going to bring out a book about your life? And I think, well, why? Is it not enough to listen to what I'm saying about my life and that how I have come to terms with the trauma and I've imploded and I have exploded and I have now structured and I am out of the wallowing in the misery of trauma, because what I have seen is that people get more attention when they're wallowing in their misery. Nobody wants a happy person around them. They don't like, joy doesn't get attention. But you're, oh, woe is me, and woe is this, and therapist this, and medication that, and blah, blah, blah.
Everyone knows that, huh?
Then it's like, and so I get sympathy, etc., for all these things, and great, because I want validation for all the shit I went through, because I kept the lid on it for over half a century. Well, whilst also thriving and never, ever, ever, ever feeling sorry for myself. Well, that just seems to be the result of a certain kind of mind, I guess. I don't know. I can be smug about that because I can be. Anyway, so going back to the publishing thing. So we're doing this. The publishing houses here are still very focused on the misery of multicultural people, the bigotry we have to live with, the oppression we have to live with, even if we are successfully living in the constructs. So it's always about talk about the racism, talk about all of that. And it's like, okay. And it's wonderful in some ways because you still have so much artistry and humor and humanity and all of it. Great. There's a space for everybody like that, right? There's other publishing houses that give voice to really people from communities that have been marginalized. Please note my terminology here. I think the language is really important. Marginalized communities, no. These are communities that have been marginalized. So it may take a few seconds longer to say that, but say it. Marginalized communities are just basically affirming something that the constructs have convinced us exists. But these are not marginalized communities. These are communities that get marginalized by the constructs. Where was I? Publishing, thank you. So anyway, so all of these things exist. So there's publishing houses that give voices to people who are unable to find an outlet of expression. So ours is showcasing the artistry of multicultural creatives. Their pictures, their paintings, their photography, not necessarily just their writing, but the visual side of things is where we're focused on. So we have a book out, and it is our first client with a lot of pleasure is Pacific Runway. And I am affiliated with Pacific Runway, and through me, Duane got affiliated with Pacific Runway. I was the publicist for and the media spokesperson for it and the lead show photographer. So the book is full of my photographs, and that just happens to be a coincidence. Thank you, my darling. Ooh, tea. because publishers and editors, as you know, because you work for other publishing houses, what you see, and what I have said many, many times before in here and on the Daily Egg, on Instagram, etc. It's all in the edit. The movie you see, it's all in the edit. And the better the director, the bigger the director, the more freedom the director gets to, because ultimately it's the director's vision. Screenwriters don't actually get a say in how their movie is edited. So often you'll find, unless of course you're someone like J.K. Rowling, who has absolute say as to what her movies look like, and that's because she got all the money from the books, etc., etc. And so people were faithfully, that you have to faithfully stick to what she wrote, etc., etc. But otherwise, writers don't really get a say in their vision, what comes out. Writers never get really a say. You write for a magazine, you write for a newspaper, the editor edits, and then you start honing your ability to become a news journalist or an opinion features writer. Writers for books, it's the publishers, the editors who edit that book. And depending on how good, I guess once you start proving yourself, or how good a writer you are or something, then maybe you have more autonomy. And maybe you then have the right to actually have what you wrote published rather than what the editor decided was good enough to be published. There's a lot of that. So this is what I'm saying. If I was just the publisher and it was somebody else's photographs, I had the right to veto the photographs. This is uncanny, that it is coincidence, it's luck, and it's not really luck, it's actually, I'll get into that right now, but so if it was just my photographs and another publishing house was producing this book that we produced, they get to say what the layout's like and what photographs should be used, so it's their choice. So this is it's not the coincidence so much, but it is a coincidence, but also because I said, this incredible platform, a decade of it, its legacy, its history needs to be commemorated. It needs to be absolutely cemented in something, a keepsake. It can't just go. I mean, I had to really convince the founder, who is a good friend of mine, but she was done with it. She had pulled an ultimate flex, and she stopped the event at its height. When she could have continued, a lot of people just continue just for the kudos. But for Yannick Sayuli, it was never about her. It's about the community and about what she can do to further serve the community, help the community, further the artistry. She's never applied her ego to it. That's why she had no problem pulling it and saying, well, she was ready to do something else. But to the point of she let it all go. And I was like, no, you can't. We've got to do something. And so that's when we decided, okay, we were always going to have a publishing house because we have the skills of 25 people between us. And so we were always going to do something like this. It was our destiny. So the book, we produced it, and it's amazing. But now the books that are in our allotment, because, well, it's not my book, so I'm not pushing it. And I'm good at pushing other people's books, but I'm a bit afraid, or I have been a bit worried about, people may think it's my book. It's not my book. And you need to understand, within the Pacific, there are huge racial tensions between Pacific people and people of Indian ancestry. I am of Indian ancestry, but I am from Fiji. I am an Indo-Fijian. I am not Indian. But Pacific people, especially those who don't really have any identity of their own, sadly, really, really, really hate it. They refuse to acknowledge that we are from the Pacific. They do not want, we can't say that. But where else? I'm not from India. I'm just of Indian ancestry. And by the way, the Pacific people are also from Asia. Come on, know your science. But, so we're pushing this. I've realized something. So we're pushing the sales of the book, because the books that are that we have, we want to get in the hands of people who deserve to have them. Young people, especially in the Pacific, particularly in Fiji and Papua New Guinea, and then Samoa, Tonga, and the diaspora, and to the Maori. in as well, community, because they were very much part of Pacific Runway. They flew over every year, showcased their incredible artwork and collections. The wonderful thing about Pacific designers and any multicultural designer really is the incredible fusion they have. They get inspired by their culture. They get inspired by what is around them, their origins, and they incorporate it into modern silhouettes, etc. Some of my most favorite Pacific designers are Leewai by Drew Douglas. Leewai by Drew Douglas is a Papua New Guinean label, but Drew is based in Auckland, New Zealand, and originally from Papua New Guinea. Likewise, Iara and Taboo, and quite a few Papua New Guinean designers need to be stocked, need to be seen on international runways, need to be stocked all around the world. Anyway, and there's designers from Fiji too, but I will talk about this in a separate thing some other time. But I've realized, one obstacle I had as publicist and spokesperson for Pacific Runway is trying to convince non-Pacific community of the commercial relevance of Pacific design. It's that, the Pacific isn't just all about coconuts and flowers in the hair, or as I like to say, coconuts and coos. The creativity side of things gets overshadowed by the hospitality, because everyone likes to see the Pacific as just where they can go and get treated like royalty, because it's all still very colonial around these parts. So what we're doing is asking people to pay it forward, to actually purchase, not for themselves if they don't want, because the people who wanted Pacific Runway for themselves are the designers, the models, the people who were involved in it in many ways, and Pacific community. But it's really the people, So they've bought the book for themselves. Now, in this book, which is a signature of ours, is ongoing content. Regardless of if you have the book and you have it 10 years from now, there's things in the book that will always have ongoing content. So it's a keepsake, a historical keepsake, because there will not be another platform like Pacific Runway. It is a pioneering platform for creatives of Pacific origin and First Nations of this land, because every show, every year, Janique Sayuli invited a designer of First Nations origin to open the show. Something that Australian Fashion Week has only now started doing, not opening. They bring in, designers from overseas. So only now are we having welcoming ceremonies at Australian Fashion Week. Only now are they giving First Nations designers standalone, shows. Otherwise, they were all lumped into one. So you'd have there's two groups, and then in both groups you'll have evening wear designers with swimwear and resort designers. And all right. Now, but anyway, so Pacific Runway was one of the first to give designers of First Nations origin their own platform, incorporated into, because it's only one night. It was only ever one night. It should have been a week. Anyway, so we want to get these books into the hands of aspiring designers, because people really need to see what is possible to be. And if this sounds like to you some quote that is misattributed to Gandhi, he said something along those lines, but not those words. People always say, be the change you want to see, or see the change you want, but it's whatever. But also you need to see the change you want to be. You do. You can't just be it if you can't see it. It takes a lot. It takes extraordinary people to be what it is that they haven't been able to see. And they go, no, I have a right to be this. So, oh, the scones are ready, by the way. Duane didn't know he could make scones until he did. Well, that must mean it's coming up to our hour, because we've changed the structure of the Daily Egg on Instagram. Really, viewers are used to me eating while I'm talking. I don't want to do that, because I like being mindful, and I also really love hot toast and hot food.
Crunchy.
And you like, us having hot food, but I do need to have a sip of this spectacular tea. Oh, lovely. Gosh, I'm such a tea drinker now. Duane's tea only. I can't drink any other tea. So this is what I have to end on. Integrity. Because this is about donating to other people and doing it behind the scenes, and this is the problem I had with, talking about Pacific Runway, because people don't want to see contemporary excellence of communities that they have marginalized or think are, blessed, sweet. They think they can design. They don't want to champion and promote contemporary excellence of multicultural communities. And this is what this book comes under. So it's all about, oh yes, when we invite non-Pacific people or non-multicultural people into these spaces to, come in, and we'd like to celebrate you and love the affiliation. But when it comes to behind the scenes, how about using all that clout you have to do things behind the scenes? And this is what a lot of people do. They love being altruistic and philanthropic and charitable in public. People do it for how it makes them seem. Or they will only help people from the village. Oh, we have so many people willing to help artisans in villages in Fiji and Papua New Guinea. Oh my gosh. Let's not start on what happens to Billums when they come to Australia. It's already, then the Euro white women usually are the ones who are celebrated for, yes, wanting to do them. There is only one that I know of, and that is Project 2 Mile. And you can find just Project 2 Mile, and that is founded and run by a Papua New Guinean woman. Project 2 Mile is, it sells billums and baskets, which is their former name, billums and baskets, made by women in Port Moresby in the squatters' settlement. So the money earned from the sale of everything in Project 2 Mile goes directly back to these Papua New Guinean women in Port Moresby who live in squatters settlements. But why this is relevant is that it's founded and run by Maggie, who is a Papua New Guinean woman living in Australia. So I think that's great. But anyway, we're coming to the end of today's Daily Egg. Please do join us tomorrow. We'll be talking, because it's a leap year. We're taking a leap of faith as well. And I've got some facts and figures, and we're talking about calendars, etc., 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 etc. What else? I've got to put the flowers away. Oh, look, you must. And these smell so heavenly. Roses, wild roses, bush roses. Look, they retain. Come on. Focus. Oh, look, I'm sorry, but it's not focusing. But they retain their fragrance. Divine, I tell you, just a divine. Don't focus. Focus there. Gosh, sorry. Anyway, so that's it for today. We do expand a lot of these things. Now, we have a lot of unpublished episodes for Radio Fly 2024. And of course, if you go onto our Radio Fly podcast, you'll see there's lots and lots of episodes. My healing was done in a very public way. I absolutely decided to unleash it publicly because too many of us actually were all traumatized. Other than people who are absolutely able to be in the present, and they are very far and few in between, this monk-like ability, this priestess-like ability, this, ability to just be in the moment. So you do not dwell on your past, you do not worry about the future. We are all traumatized, which is why I decided to take my healing trajectory public. And I have lived my life fairly visibly, so I wasn't going to then heal invisibly. I think people need to know. Anyway, my darling, we've got a poached egg coming up. Mm-hmm. Yay! For the Daily Egg. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Right. Almost there.
And,
So we put the toast in.
okay, well, I'll keep going because you need to see the Daily Egg, right? You need to see the Daily Egg because otherwise, otherwise it could be the Daily anything, really, if you don't see the Daily Egg. But we'll expand on this on our podcast, Radio Fly. Whoopsie. Sorry, darling.
Okay.
And talk more about this integrity thing. This integrity thing that has also, like beauty, become something people think that they can buy. Beauty, is beauty something that is supposed to be for everyone? Privilege of wealth and life and equity and health Equity, yes, that's for everybody. But equity also means that beauty is in differing levels. Beauty is not about equality. Beauty was never supposed to be something that got traded for that. It's currency now. Oh well, we'll talk about that further. Thank you very much for being here for the daily egg. And today it's the fancy egg. It's poached because I felt like poached egg. And there you go, on Vegemite toast because it's Straya, mate. And we like our Vegemite toast. Hey. Thank you very much for being here. See you tomorrow. Bye. Always this.